So the ISO dial on my Nikon Zfc has started malfunctioning all of a sudden, and repairing it might not be worth it. Hi and welcome back to the channel. I'm Steven from Xkrugani Photos. Today's video is a little bit of a sharing session regarding my experiences with some local camera stores in my country in Malaysia, and yeah, I'm unhappy with their attitude. I'm not sure if it is financially motivated. But long story short, I bought this Nikon Zfc pre-owned sometime last year, and I have been using it for at least 6 months by now, no problems at all. And all of a sudden, 3 months ago, the ISO dial started malfunctioning. So I don't think it has anything to do with the previous owner at all. In fact, it could have been user error on my part, but I did not realize it. So what is happening over here is that in manual mode with auto ISO turned off, when I rotate the ISO dial in proper order, 100, 125, 160, 200, 250, and so on, what is being shown on screen over here, it is not following the exact order. It would be jumping around from 100 to 500, back to 100, and then suddenly 1600, and so on. It is a mess. So my theory over here, two possibilities. Number one is that there are contact issues between the physical dial with the PCB board underneath, or maybe the motherboard itself, the PCB board is, it is malfunctioning and requires a full replacement. And even though it may be just a dial, repairs are not so simple, not in my country of Malaysia. I have tried using the camera in auto ISO mode, where I used the exposure compensation dial to manipulate the ISO indirectly, and I had access to every ISO value, no matter what it is, 640, 800, 1000, and so on. So this ISO number skipping around happens when only in manual using this dial. And unfortunately for the Nikon Zfc, unlike the Nikon ZF, there are no options to manually control ISO with the front or rear dial over here, which you can on Nikon ZF if you set the dial to C in position, if I'm not mistaken. So now I'm stuck with auto ISO only, no manual for ISO setting. So I brought this camera to seek for some advice to a local camera store in Penang, in my hometown. I won't mention any names over here. And after they inspected it, they confirmed that there is a problem that may require a repair. Just that, even if I was willing to pay for the services, they wouldn't want to help me send the camera to the service center, the distributor center in Kuala Lumpur, right, for Nikons, which will then be forwarded to Nikon Singapore to be repaired. So we don't have any technicians in Malaysia, apparently, that are qualified or certified to repair a Nikon Z mirrorless camera. That is the insane part. DSLRs, yes, but not mirrorless. Maybe the market is too small. And that is not yet the worst part. I'm willing to send a camera overseas to have it repaired if the cost is somewhat reasonable. However, what is coming up next was what that really pissed me off, that I would never go back to the camera store again. They asked me, why are you still using a Nikon? Because everyone buys Sony today. And this wasn't the first time, it was like the third time from 3 different camera stores. Like, are you guys being paid by Sony to say stuff like that? Or you are earning a higher commission from selling Sony brand compared to other brand? I'm not sure, I'm just speculating over here. Why can't I choose the brand that I prefer using? Why do I have to be a sheep and follow everyone else and buy a Sony? I'll tell you the reason why I use Nikon, right? The reason is lenses. Now, Nikon is famous or infamous for making big and heavy lenses, but in exchange, you get lenses that do not focus brief at all. They are all very well optically corrected, and this was exactly what I wanted in 35 and 50 millimeter lenses, because I do focus bracketing and focus stacking a lot in my studio photography, right? I also do freelance work. I get paid for taking photographs of toys and figures by the companies that made them. So getting back to focus breeding in lenses, right? Sony 50mm 1.2 GM. That thing focus breathes so much. When I rack focus from minimum focusing distance to a bit further away. Each frame, each photograph is a bit different. I just couldn't focus stack them in software, including Helicon Focus, without having some kind of problem as a result, and I will need to manually correct them. So I will spend like 2 or 3 hours trying to fix one photograph, which has a lot of ghosting issues just because the lens had too much focus breathing. Helicon Focus as a stacking software, it is a really good piece of software. It can compensate for a bit of lens focus breathing, but when the breathing is too much, then you'll start getting problems as well, and then you need to fix things manually, and it is a huge waste of time. So when I look at the 3 biggest brands today, Canon, Nikon, Sony, Nikon is the one that is giving me whatever I want in my line of work, in my workflow. Their gear works best for me. So why would I follow everyone else and buy a Sony? Right. That sentence really pissed me off. And this was 1 out of 3 occasions. There was another occasion involving a friend of mine. Oh, it is a she, it is a female, so it should be easy to convince them, right, to trick them into buying something else. So she went into this camera store in KL, somewhere in Kuala Lumpur. Once again, I won't mention any names. She was dead set on buying this camera that is not a Sony, but the camera store owner tried to coerce her, tried to force her to buy a Sony. Like, she is certain that is the camera for her. Why would you try to change people's decision? Why would you try to force that? Yeah, must be money. That's the thing. Like, try to pull off this shit on me again and I will never visit your camera store again. Yes, this is my message to every camera store. Now, I bought a Nikon Z8 from this camera store in KL. I actually documented the whole thing. I have a video for that. When I walked in and purchased the Nikon Z8 from this camera store, I was pretty impressed in the way that they did not force me or try to recommend me to buy multiple UV filters or screen protectors or additional batteries. Not until when I mentioned I want some, they did not force me or suggest me to buy any at all. Now, this is the kind of honest behavior I expect from camera store owners. And there were also other camera stores in Malaysia where they openly post negative feedback or negative news about a specific brand on their Facebook page, for example. Or, they are a little bit biased in a way where when Sony or Canon announces a new product, they will immediately post it on their social medias. But when Nikon or other brands announce something new, they will go completely silent. Yes. So this may sound like a rant video, but that is my experience, and I'm going to continue using this in auto ISO, and I might have to buy a new camera again sometime later this year, which wasn't part of the plan. If you have a similar story, please do share it with me down in the comments below, and thanks for watching. I'll see you guys again soon. Goodbye.